In Palestine, Israeli troops committed 4 massacres in Gaza, killing at least 40 people in the last 24 hours. In Lebanon, Israeli occupation forces increased their attacks on the nation's southern border, hitting several targets. And South America has broken a record with over 50,000 fire outbreaks so far this year, as the region faces its worst drought in 121 years. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Palestinian Israeli troops committed 4 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip during the last 24 hours. Health authorities reported at least 40 people killed and 58 injured during the attack on residential areas. Emergency services continue searching for bodies trapped under rubble or scattered on the roads. The Israeli regime has killed over 41,431 Palestinians in Gaza and wounded 95,818 others since the onset of its genocidal war last October. In this context, the Palestinian government condemned the killing of at least 5 health workers as a result of Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry condemned the constant violations by the Tel Aviv regime of international and humanitarian laws, which prohibit the targeting of health workers. Over the past 11 months, Israeli troops have killed more than 990 health workers in Gaza, including doctors, specialists, nurses, and paramedics. Occupation forces have also arrested more than 300 others and destroyed numerous hospitals and more than 100 ambulances. Israeli forces raided Al Jazeera's office in Ramallah on Saturday, arbitrarily closing the media outlet for 45 days. According to local media, Zionist troops violently stormed the office with rifles in hand and masks, presenting a military order signed by Israel to close Al Jazeera without giving any explanation. The Tel Aviv regime soldiers on site handed the document to the head of the agency, Walid al-Omari, and then told the staff to evacuate within 10 minutes and to leave all the equipment behind. This event follows the recent attack carried out by the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah with a barrage of missiles against the Ramat David Israeli air defense base.
This is a cowardly attack on the Arab and Palestinian press and freedom of expression, and an attack on the Al Jazeera network in the first place. The occupation forces arrived here and stormed this office at around 3 in the morning. Large forces stormed the city of Ramallah, the Manara area, and the surrounding streets, closed the streets and prevented anyone from approaching. Large forces stormed the office here and then handed us an order to close it for 45 days, on the pretext that it supports terrorism and works on incitement, and that they will confiscate all the content inside.
And on Saturday, thousands of Israeli citizens gathered again in the streets of Tel Aviv to pressure the government for a truce agreement to free the hostages in Gaza. Protests in the Israeli capital have become more critical towards the government of Benjamin Netanyahu since the army announced the recovery of 6 Israeli soldiers killed in the southern Palestinian enclave. Since October 7, 2023, nearly 250 hostages have been under Hamas custody, while the Netanyahu cabinet has prioritized its political interests of the lives of prisoners.
We are very frustrated about this situation because we want to be democratic, and we believe in people and in good relationship with the Arabic in the area. We don't want to be influenced from this government who just want to make war, and we want to live the best quality life for everyone in the Middle East, and we want a democratic and modern, developed place to live in the Middle East, all of us together.
Meanwhile, in Germany, thousands of citizens demonstrated in Bremen city in support of the Palestinian cause while condemning the aggressions carried out by the Zionist regime in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators marched through the streets of the city carrying Palestinian and Lebanese flags and raising slogans to demand that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu be held accountable for the crimes perpetrated against the Palestinian and Lebanese people. They also demanded an end to the genocidal war that the Israeli regime has been waging in Gaza for the past 11 months. Also in Sweden, thousands of people participated in demonstrations organized in Uppsala and Stockholm in support of the Palestinian people and demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators took the streets of these Swedish cities to denounce the constant aggressions perpetrated by the Israeli occupation against the enclave. During the demonstrations, participants raised Palestinian flags in rejection of the Israeli genocide, which since its beginning has left more than 42,000 Palestinian civilians killed and more than 92,000 wounded. For her part, the Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg condemned the genocide and affirmed that silence regarding this situation means complicity. Moving on, in southern Lebanon, new Israeli attacks against several Hezbollah resistance military centers are reported in the last hours as part of the escalation of hostilities between the two countries. During Sunday morning, the Israeli Air Force fighter jets bombed dozens of targets, including military structures of the resistance movement. In this context, Tel Aviv threatened to intensify attacks against Hezbollah in the coming days. Meanwhile, Lebanon answers to the Zionist offensive by firing more than 100 rockets at Israeli military installations in Ramat David. Following up the situation in the area, the number of dead in the bombing perpetrated by Israel against a neighborhood in the capital of Lebanon, Beirut, has risen to 50. Authorities also confirmed that the number of wounded has risen to 66, while another 11 people are still missing. In this sense, the rescue groups emphasize that search and rescue operations are continuing in the areas attacked by Israel. The bombing took place on Friday, September 20th, after a wave of coordinated explosions in communication devices. And Lebanon's Hezbollah resistance movement launched its most far-reaching attack on Israeli military bases in the occupied Palestinian territories. The Lebanese group claimed in a post on its Telegram channel that in response to repeated Israeli attacks, it carried out an operation for the first time against the Israeli air base Ramat David, Haifa, and Afula with dozens of missiles. The Israeli Ramat David air base is located in the northern part of the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories, just 20 kilometers southeast of Haifa. Since October 7th, Hezbollah has been carrying out numerous similar attacks against the occupied territories after the Zionist regime significantly intensified its aggressions against Lebanon. And in Iran, police forces dismantled a terrorist cell attempting to infiltrate the country from the southeast border to commit acts of sabotage. Iranian border police commander Ahmad Ali reported that his forces repelled the attempt of a terrorist group to enter the country through the circum-border zone, wanted to carry out destructive operations in the country. The military high command recognized the vigilance of the Iranian border guards and detailed that its troops inflicted a severe strike to the terrorists. He also detailed that a large amount of weapons and ammunition were confiscated from the cell, including portable wireless devices and an improvised explosive device. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. South America has broken a record with over 50,000 fire outbreaks so far this year, as the region faces its worst drought in 121 years. The burning program of the Brazilian National Research Institute has confirmed that from January to September 2024, over 345,000 fires have been reported in South America, surpassing the figures for 2007. Meanwhile, the government of Bolivia has declared a national emergency due to the forest fires reported at least 3,000 outbreaks in several areas of the country. In Ecuador, so far this year, the Quito Fire Department has tackled 325 forest fires. Argentina and Paraguay are in a similar situation. According to official reports, this year, wildfires have devastated a large part of the Amazon. And the Electra air tanker from Canada and an Airbus helicopter equipped with a Bambi bucket to transport water arrived in Bolivia to reinforce rescue and salvage efforts in the fight against forest fires. President Luis Arce confirmed the arrival of the air tanker in the city of Santa Cruz at a press conference, stating that fulfilling their commitment to the Bolivian people, they received the Electra air tanker in Santa Cruz. The Canadian tanker, which is expected to operate in Bolivia for 15 days, has a capacity to transport 11,500 liters of water, while the helicopter, with a capacity of 1,000 liters of water, is part of the collaboration of the Airbus Foundation of France. And in Peru, authorities reported at least 18 deaths and thousands of hectares of forest burned due to the recent forest fires affecting the national territory. The National Institute of Civil Defense, INDECI, stated that the latest deaths, 2 were registered in the San Martin region, while a third died in the department of Junin. In this sense, INDECI declared before the Congressional Climate Change Specialization Commission that the fires have also left at least 165 people injured by burns and burned some 2,000 hectares of crops. The fact occurs after the authorities stated that 83% of the fires in the country had already been controlled and extinguished. And in Brazil, investigations of forest fires in the country point to signs of environmental crime. After 85 investigations, the delegate of the federal police in charge of the procedures, Humberto Freire, indicated that there are different hypotheses about the reasons that led to the population to attack the planet's lungs. For her part, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Marina Silva, also sees a scenario of resistance to the resumption of an environmental public policy, and that these fires are product of a combination of an extreme climatic event that is devastating the planet and criminals who set the country on fire. Since early 2024, Brazil has recorded almost 200,000 outbreaks of fires, and more than half of them started in the Amazon. And in Ecuador, authorities decided to suspend electricity service for 9 hours this September 22nd in 12 of the 24 provinces of the country due to the extreme drought. Electricity service will be suspended from 800 to 1700 hours local time in several Andean and Amazonian provinces. According to the report, the country is facing so far 71 days of hydrological drought, and it is considered the most intense in the last 61 years. The official press release added that the situation will be evaluated and that necessary complementary measures will be announced. As a consequence of the drought, 1,330 fires have been registered, with around 7,600 hectares affected. The United Nations Children's Fund reported that at least 6 million children were affected by Typhoon Yagi in several Asian countries. The organization indicated that the countries most affected by the typhoon are Vietnam, Thailand, and Myanmar. In this regard, on September 18th, the Thai authorities reported 3 deaths, bringing the total number of victims of the meteorological phenomenon to 18, while in Myanmar, almost 400,000 residents have fled their homes due to the floods. Also in Laos, heavy flooding has devastated 8 provinces, affecting 60,000 children, while the typhoon has damaged essential infrastructure and threatened communities' living conditions. Also in Poland, severe flooding has affected at least 57,000 people in the country following the passage of Storm Boris on the European continent. According to the head of the Polish Prime Minister's office, Jan Gabriek, the natural phenomenon also left severe damage to more than 11,000 residential houses and some 6,000 non-residential homes. He also specified that the natural disaster regime is in force in 749 localities and currently affects around 2.31 million inhabitants. It is important to note that to date, the storm in Europe has caused human losses in Romania, Austria, and the Czech Republic. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Sri Lanka will hold for the first time in its history a second election recount after none of the top candidates received more than 50% of the direct support of the electorate. The Electoral Commission will only consider candidates Aruna Kumara Dissanayake, who received the highest number of votes, 42.31%, and Sajid Premadasa with the second highest number of votes, 32.76%. It's important to note that the elections are governed by a preferential voting model in which voters can choose up to 3 candidates in order of preference. If at the end of the recount none of the candidates obtains more than 50% of the votes in which they were second and third choices will be added. And in Martinique, several hundred people continue to protest against the high cost of living despite the curfew imposed by the authorities. Since last Friday, Prefect Jean-Christophe Bouvier has ordered a ban on rallies as part of the 4th day of protest, while villagers denounce that the authorities are perpetrating colonial methods of repression. Martinique's population also denounced that food is 40% more expensive than in mainland France, a discontent that is expressed by several dozen people blocking 2 supermarkets in the city of Le François, despite Bouvier's orders to deploy more security forces to increase the number of arrests. The protests have not been quelled.
We are simple and concise. Today, we have speed cameras like in France, the same fines, the same prisons, the same taxes if not more. We have the octroi de mer tax, the same roads, the same ID cards, the same passports. So why should it be different when it comes to food? Why do they insist on showing us that we are not French when it comes to food prices? Either we are 100% French, or we are not. We believe we are French, so we are asking that food prices be aligned with those in mainland France.
The United Nations called for support to the ceasefire in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The head of the United Nations Department of Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, insisted on the need to support diplomatic efforts to implement the ceasefire agreed between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda in order to restore peace in the country. Lacroix also urged all armed groups to disarm unconditionally to give a chance to the ongoing political process. The head of the Peace Operations Department also held meetings with political actors, civil society, including religious denominations, the diplomatic community, and representatives of UN system program agencies. The World Health Organization reported that more than 25,000 suspected and confirmed cases of monkeypox disease have been reported in Africa. During a press conference in Geneva, the organization spokesperson Margaret Harris declared that the 3 countries with the most reported cases of monkeypox are the Democratic Republic of Congo with 21,835 suspected cases and 717 deaths, Burundi with 1,498 suspected cases, and Nigeria with 935 suspected cases and no death. The agency also declared an international health emergency on August 14th and warned of the existence of a new strand which can be transmitted by close contact with skin. And Venezuela presented before the China's Council for the Promotion of International Trade its intention to host the China Latin American Caribbean Business Summit in 2026. This forum is part of the initiatives of the China CELAC Forum, crucial to promote economic and commercial cooperation between both regions. So that edition 2026 promises to be a significant milestone for further strengthening the ties between Asia and Latin America. For his part, Ren Hongbin, the CCP president, praised the sustained growth of Venezuela in the last 13 quarters and pledged to submit the proposal to the competent institutions and reaffirmed CCPIT's willingness to strengthen cooperation ties with Venezuela, considered a strategic partner of China in Latin America. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.